Hello again, everybody. I'm Roger Hoover. Glad to welcome you back to the Crimson Tide Sports Network. And it's time for The Big Picture. It's presented to you by Legacy of Hope. You know, saving a life has never been easier. You can register online at legacyofhope.org to be an organ, eye, and tissue donor. You can give the gift of life by becoming an organ donor today. Someone that's been very busy with Alabama athletics has been Dave Neal. Last night he was on the call on the SEC Network for Alabama men's basketball against Furman. And this Saturday he'll be calling the SEC championship game on the SEC Radio Network, and he joins us now. Dave, how's everything going?
Great, man. I'm just enjoying the holidays with some sports involved. You know, I mean, it's crazy that we're coming to the end of the football season. I didn't think we were ever going to get here, but seems like we are inching ever so close to the finish line.
Yeah, it is great to see that Alabama was able to have a 10-0 regular season. Now the Tide gearing up for the SEC championship game. And just starting with football, when you're getting ready to call that game and when you're starting to learn more about this Alabama team, what stands out to you the most?
Well, I think the obvious stands out. It's just, you know, how good certain players are in their position group. You know, I said it last night on the Alabama basketball game that Devontae Smith, to me, is the best player in college football. It is not even close, in my opinion. I watched a couple of games this week, and he just moves differently than others, man. It's just different. And, you know, and Mac Jones has had a great year. But, I mean, look, when you got guys like Najee Harris and Devontae Smith, it really helps you as a quarterback. I mean, that's the understatement of the world. But it is incredible what Alabama's offense has looked like this year. As good as their defense has been, I just think this offense has just been phenomenal. It's been fun, and I can't wait to get to the Mercedes-Benz Stadium Saturday night to see it in person.
Yeah, and Alabama's opponent, the Florida Gators, you figured that Florida would beat LSU, and this would be the high-profile matchup we were really looking for with a playoff spot on the line and possibly two playoff spots on the line. But what surprised you about Gainesville on Saturday night with the crazy finish between LSU and Florida?
Well, I mean, obviously the way that thing, the ended, the shoot throw, all that stuff will always be part of the storyline of that series. There have been so many remarkable storylines over the years between those two teams. But to me, more than anything, it was the fact that Florida just couldn't seem to get their separation. I mean, they just totally dominated offensively, running up and down the field, but couldn't make the play when they needed to make the play. And the fact that LSU was able to do what they did offensively with a true freshman quarterback that, you know, going up against I'm not going to say a great Florida defense because they're fifth in the league, giving up points, and you know but they're good. I mean, listen, there's still Florida defensive players out there. LSU should not have been able to do what they did. Florida helped them out a couple of times, obviously, but it was just kind of a lackluster effort for a team that was sitting there right on the cusp of a college football playoff berth and an SEC championship game against Alabama. I was just, and you can tell me all this, we were looking forward to this, you know, to the championship game, and LSU was struggling, so we weren't really locked in. Well, you know what? To me, that falls on a coaching staff. If you can't get your guys ready to play against one of your rivals, big rivals in LSU, then I don't know what are we doing, right? I mean, as a coaching staff. So that stands out to me. It's like, if you want to be that team, then you got to act like that team, and they didn't.
And we just got through the regular season in the SEC, and you've been calling SEC football for so many years. Did you like having a 10-game SEC schedule and knowing for you every time you're getting ready to call a game, it was an SEC matchup, none of these non-conference games or anything like that?
Oh, my gosh, Roger, it was, you know, they spoiled me this year. Reminds me going back to my JP days back in the late 90s and 2000s when, you know, we had the third pick every week. So we were getting a good game no matter what we were doing. There was the offshoot game that really wasn't that good. But for the most part, we were getting nice matchups. And, you know, the last 10 years or so, the way the schedule plays out with ESPN and all that stuff, you know, about half my games are non-conference games. So having conference schedule or close to it has been just phenomenal. Loved every minute of it. I think the fans have loved every minute of it. I don't know how much the coaches have loved it, but I think the players like it. I mean, it's you have to stay in the moment, right? You can't say, okay, here comes Western Carolina. We need to get our second and third team dudes ready. You know, your first team guys better be ready to go every week. And it's been great. look, I would love for them to go to 9. They'd never go to 10 games, but I would love to see another conference game in there. I think it's good for everybody, and I think it's probably split down the middle on who wants to do that. But boy, it sure makes Saturdays fun. I think for everybody, coaches, players, fans, media, when you get SEC versus SEC games every weekend.
And now you get the culmination of that with the SEC championship game. And I believe I saw this is going to be your 22nd that you've called on the SEC radio network. Just what do you love about this game? And of course, you've seen so many of those great games be between Alabama and Florida.
Yeah, it's going to be different, Roger, this year. And it's just not going to be the same. Part of what makes the SEC championship so great, is the teams are usually fantastic and they're playing for something at the end. But it's also the crowd. It's the build-up to this game, and I think the fans appreciate this championship game almost as much as a national championship game. There is so much pride, and there's a lot of commitment to this game, not just from the league but from the fans and the people that invest in it, from the media to sponsors to everything about it. It's big. It's just a big event, and not having 75,000 people in the stadium is going to certainly diminish some of what makes it so great. But I think once you get Florida and Alabama on the field, it becomes a championship game at that point. But the build up to it, the SEC fanfare over at the World Congress Center next door, the concerts going on the lawn in front of the stadium, just all the stuff, man, it's just great. I always try to go down 4 or 5 hours early just to get in the mix, right? Because it's so special to me. And I've been fortunate to call 22 of these. I did sidelines on a couple of them before that. So, 24 of these probably I've been involved with maybe. And it really is a special time for me professionally and personally to be a part of this. And I go back, I used to, up until last year, I hosted the coaches luncheon on Fridays. And we'd sit down with both head coaches in front of 1,500 folks eating lunch, the old banquet looking thing, and sit up on this stage. And it's really funny because I know these coaches. I'm not going to say I know them really well, but I know them, right? I mean, we have relationships being around them as much as I am. But these guys, fans are like loving this like a bowl game or something, right? These coaches are not. It is not fun for them. And to take them out of their routine and put them in a luncheon on a Friday afternoon in front of 15 people with their counterpart they're trying to work against, and coach against, it's always been a dynamic that I said if people could just see behind the curtain. I remember one year Alabama and Florida were playing. One of those years they were ranked 1 and 2, and I can't remember. But Nick Saban and Urban Meyer didn't even want to see each other. I mean, it was really mainly a Coach Meyer thing. But usually coaches will meet and for a few minutes before we go on stage, and just kind of shoot the bull a little bit, catch up with what's going on. But not that year, man. Actually, it was probably both those years. And they were completely separated until we got on stage. You want to talk about kind of a nerve-wracking situation? That definitely was a nerve-wracking situation. But that's just part of it. Again, I know it's a long answer, but it's what makes the game so special to me.
And speaking of behind the curtain, it's been interesting for you this year. You've been doing so many broadcasts from home. We saw that last night for Alabama against Furman. Just what has been the challenge of trying to call games off a monitor for television?
Well, it goes back to what I was just saying about the championship game, is that the fact that you're just not in the environment, right? I've done 13 football games this year or something like that, and 4 of them have been on the road. And even without, full stadiums, there may have been, I think a couple of games I did, there were a few thousand folks. The first game I did this year was Syracuse in North Carolina up in Chapel Hill, and there was not a single person to be found in the stadium. And it's weird, right? I mean, it's just weird to watch major college football and nobody in the stands. But doing it from home, doing those games from the stadium and then going to my house and doing a game, you miss out on the simple things. And it sounds easy, but it's just to give you an example, a big play down the field that's 40 yards down the field and the camera's following the ball and I'm having to watch it off a monitor. There's a flag behind the play, but I can't see because the camera's not following. So you know what I mean? It's like I would call that play differently if I knew that there was a flag in the area of holding, especially if it went for a touchdown, right? I wouldn't be all crazy jumping up and down excited for this play if I knew there was a flag back there and it's right in the area of holding. So, it's things like that. And basketball is a little tough too. It's hard to kind of identify some players when they're all right in the middle of the scrum under a basket going for a rebound or a loose ball, and you can't really see fouls are on. But listen, those are all little nitpicking things. I'm just glad that we're doing this. I think these kids are excited about doing it, and I don't care what anybody says. I think these kids, especially in the world of basketball right now, because these guys will be playing hoops somewhere, right? I mean, they would be playing pickup ball somewhere, and you might as well put them in an environment where it's as safe as it can be. And that's what I think you get with these college and universities at this time of the year. So I'm glad we're doing it for a lot of reasons. And it's just, what would we do without it? I mean, we went 6 months without sports, and we were all going crazy. So it's nice to have something to root for or against.
Yeah, and last night it was good to see Alabama basketball. You were on the call on the SEC Network for a tremendous comeback for the Crimson Tide. Just what were your thoughts on getting to cover Alabama last night, getting to talk with Coach Oates before the ball game, and then the great comeback we saw against the Paladins?
First of all, I'm a huge fan of Nate Oates. The guy he is sharp. He's fun to talk to. I can tell his guys like him. They love his style of play. Now, with that being said, Alabama did not look like what I thought they were going to look like last night. Herbert Jones was great. I mean, Herbert Jones carried that team as much as he could, but they just weren't in sync. And it was so true. Talking to Coach Oates, and I'm sure you've heard this too, Roger, from him being around it. But he talks about the ball sticking and guys just dribbling too much, and there's not a lot of passing that this offense needs. It's not a lot of dribble drive to the hoop, kick for the wide open. The ball got stuck. There wasn't a whole lot of that going on, and I could see where he was getting frustrated. It just wasn't clicking, and I don't know what it is. John Petty wasn't on last night. He just didn't. He never got in the game, never got in the flow. He did some nice things away from the ball, though. It wasn't just about his shot. I mean, I think he finished with 7 rebounds, 5 or 6 assists or something. So he did contribute, but you got to have him score. And it was good to see. And this is something that I think that they can really build on. Twofold. A, rallying against a team that's supposed to win their conference, Furman, which is a really good team, and down 16 and find a way to win. I don't care. There are a lot of things that went wrong, but you cannot overlook the value of that. And the second thing is you've got production off the bench from a couple of guys you weren't sure how much they could give you, but Jawan Gary was phenomenal, and James Rojas brought the energy when they desperately needed. So you've just added a piece to your bench, to your team, some extra minutes out there, to your rotation is the word I was looking for. And you also have an opportunity now to build on something. So, listen, league play starts in a week. They better get it together. But I think Alabama has the pieces. They just need to kind of somehow gel together. That'd be my big takeaway, is that they just don't seem like a complete unit right now.
Well, we'll look forward to hearing more of you on the SEC Network for some Alabama basketball down the stretch, and also the SEC Championship game on the SEC Radio coming up on Saturday. But Dave, best of luck with the calls you have coming up, and if we don't talk to you again, have a very Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays to you and your family. Thank you for joining us today.
Roger, thanks for having me on. Always great to talk with you, and look forward to seeing you down the road, buddy. Thanks. Merry Christmas to you as well.
All right. Thanks to Dave Neal for joining us, and thank you for watching the Crimson Tide Sports Network.